So with care fees rising and more families coming under financial pressure, protecting your property as well as your inheritance from care home fees has never been more important. Every year, countless families are blindsided and are forced to sell their family home to cover the skyrocketing cost of care home fees. So just imagine working your entire life to build a home as well as a secure future for your family, only to see it vanish very, very quickly in some cases if you or a loved one needs long-term care. Now, most people have got absolutely no idea how easily either their life savings or even their family home can be claimed by the local authority to pay for these care costs. Now, thankfully, it doesn't always have to be this way, as there are some powerful strategies that you can use to protect your home as well as your inheritance. So in this video, I'm going to reveal to you the important steps that we can all take to safeguard our home, our assets, our inheritance, and of course, your legacy. And we're going to be doing all that to ensure that your family is protected, not just now, but for generations to come. So welcome back to the Personal Finance Crew. And if this is your first time, a very warm welcome to the Economies channel, where together we're going to be learning the language of money and wealth. But we're also dedicated, passionate, and focused to mastering money and making sure financial wisdom is available to absolutely everybody. Hi, my name is Simon, and I'm a chartered financial planner based in the UK. But why don't you follow me back to the studio, where I'm going to explain the size of this problem, as well as offer some practical solutions to show you how to solve it. So I hope to see you in a minute. So you've already spent a lifetime building a home, nurturing a family, and filling that home with memories. You've also been trying to protect your financial future. So the last thing you want to do is lose it all to pay for care home fees. So with recent changes to the care fee caps, rising care costs, as well as very invasive and complex asset assessments from a local authority, the need to protect your home as well as your inheritance has never been more critical. So let's give you an idea of the scale of the problem we're going to be talking about in this video. About 1 in 6 people over the age of 65 in the UK are going to need some form of long-term residential care. Now, according to Age UK, about 143,000 older people in the UK are going to rely on residential care, with about 2 million people with unmet needs for social care. According to the ONS, there's about 138,000 people in the UK who are going to have to self-fund all their care costs, which represents about 37% of the people in care homes around the UK. So let's talk a little bit about the care fees cap. So this cap was initially introduced in September 2021 with the idea of helping people to manage their care home costs. Now, the lifetime cap on care meant no one would have to pay more than £86,000 for their care fees. Now, the Conservative government pushed this financial support back to October 2025. But then on 29th of July this year, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves announced that this care cap was going to be scrapped forever. Now, Sir Andrew Dilnot, who actually proposed the care cap originally, said the decision was a tragedy and unbelievably disappointing for those families who were going to be affected. Now, this would have meant that once you've paid £86,000, the government would then have stepped in to cover any further fees as part of your personal care. Now, this has left many thousands of people paying significantly higher costs, as this shift has profound financial implications for anyone who might need care in the future. And this has left many families questioning how to protect their assets as well as their inheritance. And that's only natural, because the average cost of care in the UK is absolutely staggering. Now, according to Care Home UK, the people who do need to self-fund their own care will pay on average £4,640 a month, or a little over £55,000 a year. And for those who might need a special type of care, a nursing home could cost £5,640 a month, or close to £68,000 a year. Just let that sink in for a minute. Now, of course, these costs are going to add up very, very quickly. And without sufficient savings, many families are going to be forced to use their homes or their assets to foot the care bill. Now, according to the ONS, again, the average length of stay in a care home is just over 2 years. So for individuals with different types of health needs, this stay can extend a lot longer, leading to even higher care costs. Now, 2 years may not seem like a long time, but the cost over these years can easily exceed the value of many people's savings, effectively taking away large portions of their estates and their inheritance. Now, this data suggests that the cost of care per person could easily extend over £100,000. Now, when a person requires care, local authorities will conduct a complex financial assessment to determine how those costs are going to be covered and who's going to be responsible for paying what. Now, as you can imagine, this assessment is going to consider your savings as well as income from all sources, as well as including the family home, of course. So what that means is if you've got savings or assets over £23,250, you are generally expected to pay for your care in full. Now, savings under this amount might qualify you for some sort of financial assistance only once you've nearly exhausted your personal savings. This means that if you do need care, your home may need to be sold to cover these care fees, destroying the inheritance that you had hoped to pass on to your family. Now, in the UK, the amount you pay for care home fees depends on your overall capital, as well as your savings and assets. Now, if your capital is between £14,250 and £23,250, you may receive some sort of partial assistance. But if you've got assets below £14,250, you're generally expected to contribute only from your income, but not from your capital. Now, the local authority's assessment of your assets is going to be particularly invasive. They're going to look at absolutely everything that you own, from your cash savings to any properties, any investments, as well as income from the state pension, as well as any private pensions. They'll look at your state benefits, any rental income, any earned income from part-time work maybe, and of course dividends from any investments that you might have. So it's very likely that the council or the local authority is going to need to assess your property, which might need to be sold forcibly in the future or used as a deferred payment to be recovered on your death. However, there are going to be some exceptions, and understanding these can make a huge difference in protecting your estate from paying care home fees. So when assets like your home are used to pay for care, the amount that's going to be left for your family's inheritance naturally is going to be massively reduced. So for many families, this isn't just a financial issue, but an emotional one too, because the impact of paying for care home fees can be absolutely devastating, and it can wipe out decades of saving and reducing the inheritance that your loved ones might ordinarily have received. So before we get into summer solutions, if you're finding value in this video, can you please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the channel, as well as hitting the notification bell so we can get some of this financial wisdom to literally as many people as possible, and we can continue to help grow this very valuable community. So thank you in advance. So what can we all do to protect our home as well as our inheritance from these future care costs? Now, fortunately, there are a few strategic options which we can all use to help safeguard our assets. So number one is setting up a trust. Now, one of the most effective ways to protect your home as well as your assets is by setting up a trust. So by transferring ownership of your home into a trust, it may be possible to shield it from being included in a care home fee assessment. Trusts allow you to place assets in a legal entity, protecting them from care home fees assessment while still allowing you or your beneficiaries to benefit from them. But it's essential to set up your trusts well in advance of needing any care, as recent transfers could be scrutinised under what they call the Depravation of Assets rules, and I'm going to come on to that shortly. So next is a lasting power of attorney. Now, a lasting power of attorney is a legal document that allows you to appoint someone to make important decisions on your behalf if you don't have the mental capacity to do so on your own. And there are two types of power of attorney. One is health and welfare, and one is property and financial affairs. Now, a lasting power of attorney can be crucial in managing your financial assets, ensuring that someone who you trust is making decisions for you in your best interest. Now, by planning early and having a power of attorney in place, you're going to be able to retain more control over how your assets are managed
if care becomes necessary in the future. Next is tenants in common. So by changing the property deed's ownership from joint tenants, which is fairly common, to tenants in common, each person will then retain 50% ownership of the property. So when one of the owners of the property needs care, only their share of the property is going to be considered in any local authority means tested assessment. And what that means is the other owner of the property is going to retain control. And if you're living together, that means there will not be a forced sale of the property to pay for your care home fees. Now, what you need to do if you're doing this is be very careful of the 7-year rule, which refers to the deprivation of assets. Now, local authorities are going to scrutinize any asset arrangements. And if they believe or if they think you change the ownership or set up a trust just to avoid care fees, then they still might count this asset in their final assessment. Now, this is called deprivation of assets, and this could make any financial arrangement ineffective if it's done too close to when you actually need care. Now, unlike inheritance tax planning, where there's a 7-year rule for giving away your assets, there is no specific time limit for the deprivation of assets rule, especially when local authorities are making their assessment. Now, the local authority is going to look at the timing as well as the intent behind the transfer of the assets, no matter how far back this occurred. So make sure you plan well in advance. So the key to protecting your home and your inheritance from care home fees is acting early. Now, while trusts, lasting power of attorney, and tenants in common, they all provide a level of protection, but they are most effective when they are planned well in advance. So what that means is if you wait until care is actually needed, this may limit your options completely, as a local authority is going to be scrutinizing any recent transfers of assets, and they could potentially disregard them if they view and think that this has been an attempt to avoid you paying your care costs. So in conclusion, facing the possibility of losing your home and your savings and the inheritance to pay for care home fees can be overwhelming, but you don't have to face it unprepared. By understanding options that are open to you and acting well in advance, you're going to be able to take the steps to protect your assets, your property, as well as preserve your family's inheritance for generations to come. So I've included links to 2 other videos in this series. One's about inheritance planning to add some context to this very complicated topic. And another video is about some of the options we face in retirement, and that's whether to save our money or to spend our money in retirement and then clearly die with nothing. So thank you for watching to the very end and for your time and for your patience as always, and we'll see you all again next week.